press the record button. Yes. So the record button on, and we are already on the hour. So with that, I would like to wish everyone good evening. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And welcome everyone.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. It is such a pleasure and honor to be meeting with all of you this evening. If my voice starts to trail out, so please remind me in order to speak louder. However, it is worth that my voice is almost hoarse because it shows that I had been playing to my utmost with my grandchildren over the last 2 days. So welcome to the discussion on the possibility conversation, which is based on Dr. Michael Hall's book called Coaching Conversations. And this discussion we are having this evening is part of our monthly meta coaching series. We have 4 themes going on. We have the meta coaching series, then we have the neuro-semantics series, we have the relationship series, and next week you will be the parenting series. So depending on your interest, on your area of focus, you can come to any one of these series, or you may come to all of this. And I would appreciate that if you were to do that. Now, some of you are here for the first time, and there are others who have joined these sessions before. Whether you are a first timer or a regular, I bid you welcome, and I encourage you to interact in the discussions later. I'm Mazuki. I'm a neuro-semantics trainer and meta coach, and I'm also on the leadership team of the International Society of Neuro-Semantics. I help people to systematically develop skills in leading, communicating, and teaching to bring out the best in themselves and in others. By actualizing that, you can experience an exceptional quality of life filled with happiness, creativity, and fulfillment. And those are the things that we want in our lives. In the 90 minutes together, we'll be discussing on the theoretical framework, pretending our way to reality, the magic of possibility thinking, and also some possibility questions. I will pause for discussion after each main point to invite from you questions, comments, contributions, or maybe some of you like to think out loud. So go ahead and do that when I pause between the main points. And for those meta coaches who are here this evening, I hope that this session will be a useful reminder to you. And I want to encourage you to please add your insights from your experiences as we go through the sessions, this evening. And for those who are new to this, feel free to explore further, to ask questions. Dan sekiranya ada yang tak berapa selesa dengan bahasa Inggeris tapi nak tanya soalan, silakan tanya soalan dalam bahasa Melayu. InsyaAllah, I will bring the question and answer to everyone else. And I specifically mentioned in bahasa Melayu because I seek your apologies because I don't know any other language apart from English and bahasa Melayu. The only language that I know is bahasa Kelantan. So that's what I'm limited to. And as you may be aware by now that my style is to be light and humorous. So if I laugh or smile, I'm never laughing at you, but at our silly human qualities. My purpose is to lighten things up, reduce being too serious, and to be more real human being, right? So as an introduction to this session we are having this evening, what we will be discussing on will be on the questions of, should we engage in conversations of pretend, magic, miracles, and possibilities? Will that not set us up for illusion, disappointment, or disillusionment? Are hypothetical explorations really practical? Can we think in possibility terms and still be realistic and practical? So those are some of the areas that we'll be talking about. Now, to continue on with this discussion this evening, I would just like to share my screen over here so that I can share the slides that I have prepared for you. Let's take our discussion to look into the theoretical framework when we want to do anything, to understand what's the theory behind it, because understand the theory behind it allows us to be more flexible in the way that we implement something. Okay. Now, the coaching relationship is preeminently practical and pragmatic. Why? That's one of the reasons. Coaching as a movement has exploded in the 1990s and early 21st century, beginning with professional athletes who simply wanted to refine and hone their skills and obtain a cutting-edge advantage so that they can have more superior performance in the sports arena. It's just that in the 1990s and early 21st century, people in the business world, business executives, CEOs, recognized that an executive coach could do the same thing for them in terms of leadership, speaking creativity, and negotiation. And from there, politicians, movie stars, managers, business owners, entrepreneurs, and many others began looking for a personal or executive coach who could bring the skills to higher levels of expertise and performance. This pragmatism of coaching puts a premium on skills and tools and de-emphasizes theory. The mantra was, if it works, use it. Only now has the field of coaching has begun to settle down to think about its theoretical framework and the governing premises that make it work.
Okay, sayang.
Yes.
Can you just reiterate a little bit in Bahasa? Can you go to the previous slide? What does it mean by preeminent, practical, and pragmatic? Can you in a short words in BM, please? Thank you.
Thank you. In Bahasa Melayu, we say that a coaching relationship is preeminently practical and pragmatic. Pada asalnya ialah dari segi coaching ni, kita tak fikir pun tentang teori sebelum tu. We are talking about dalam tahun 1990, awal tahun 2000, bidang coaching ni tak fikir pun pasal teori. Dia fikir tentang klien tu macam mana nak meningkatkan lagi prestasi dia. Ya, kita kata semenjak kebelakangan ni, in the last, I would say about 10 years, then we have started to look into how coaching works, dan dengan itu kita mula melihat apakah teori di sebaliknya. Jadi for this first point, we are looking at some of the theoretical frameworks. Okay, so does that is that helpful, Jay? Okay.
Sorry. Yes, very, very helpful. Right. So I hope that as you go on, I'm so sorry for the rest. If you can just take the salient point and important point, just reiterate in BM, because most of them understand English. At the same time, when we reiterate in English, it will reinforce the understanding. Appreciate it very much. And I thank the others who are very fluent in English for the space for our many of them who are how we say it, understand more in BM. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that. Given this focused emphasis on practicality. Where do the states and processes that we associate with the impractical? Because topik kita malam ni, the topic for this evening is on possibility conversation. When we talk about possibility conversation, we are talking about imagination. We are talking about possibility. We are talking about pretending. So earlier we talked about coaching is about being practical, being pragmatic. Now this conversation, possibility conversation, revolve around the impractical, the imagination, the pretending. So the question that you may ask is that, can we use these as central coaching tools? Can we use imagination, possibility, pretending? Boleh tak kita guna imaginasi, possibility dan juga pretending? Pretending ni apa kot bahasa Melayu?
Lakon.
Lakon.
Pretend, possibility, kebarangkalian lah.
Kebarangkalian.
Imajinasi, apa yang boleh, kemungkinan yang boleh, dan pretending.
Kemungkinan,
kebarangkalian. Macam ada tuan.
Sorry.
Tolong mute ya. Siapa yang baru masuk, tolong mute. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hari ni saya jadi kelas monitor. Okay. Apa namanya, Tengku Osman dia kata malam ni semua kita speaking London. Mana yang tak just stay buat faham-faham je dulu. Itulah pretending lah tu.
Thank you. Yeah. So when we talk about imagination, possibility, and pretending, can we use this as central coaching tools? If we can, how can we use this as coaching tools? How can we structure a coaching conversation around possibility thinking using hypothetical questions? So this is what we are looking at. And the answer to all the three questions I mentioned just now is that the answer is simple. When we think in terms of possibilities,
out of the box,
in terms of imagining wild options, we temporarily step out of the box of our assumptions and limitations. Sebab dalam kehidupan,
minta semua peserta check that you are already mute, because when you not mute, when you speak, it disturbs the presenter speaking. So thank you so much for your cooperation.
Thank you. Right. So we are talking about that box. We tend to move around in that box. In neurosemantics, we call it matrix. So that box, that matrix that we have is composed of our beliefs, our understandings. And because we structure our lives in that particular box, we tend to not see solutions outside of it. So this is what we call the out-of-box thinking. And frequently, it is such out-of-the-box thinking that allows us to try on new possibilities and to move forward to more exquisite levels of performance. It's for these reasons that possibility conversations are central to the adventure of coaching. Okay, so that's basically the theoretical framework behind the possibility conversation. What happened is that we are trapped in our own box of assumptions. So the possibility conversation is about taking ourselves out of the box to look at what we are facing it from a new perspective. So I'm going to pause here and ask any one of you have any questions with respect to the theoretical framework. Yeah, I hope that's quite simple enough for us to understand. So any questions or comments, just go ahead. And class monitor dah remind tadi to mute your mic when you are not speaking. And if you want to say, you want to speak anything, just go ahead and ask Any questions? Just go ahead. So, any questions? Now I'm looking at the screen over here. Just unmute yourself and ask questions if you'd like. Ya, tak ada soalan ke? Okay, no questions. Then let's move to the next point.
Sayang,
Yes.
can you lantik Guat Cheng and also Zata Yusof to become a co-host so that they can also assist me in monitoring people who are not apa namanya muting. Thank you.
Okay. So, Guat Cheng, where are you?
Maybe I can, because I'm a co-host, can I?
You're a co-host, kan?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay. Proceed, Sayang.
Guat Cheng, if you don't mind, I'm going to make you co-host.
And
Thank you.
Zata Yusof as well.
Okay. Right. Done that, Ji?
Zata Yusof ada seorang lagi.
Zata. Okay.
Okay.
I've got
Thank
it.
you. Yep. Because they requested, so that's why.
Right.
Thank you.
So we have Zata Yusof there. So everyone, Alhamdulillah, we've added another 2 co-hosts there. Right. So let's move to the second point. Just now we discussed about the theoretical framework to possibility conversation. Now the next point is on pretending our way to reality. Just a thought that comes to mind. How many of you have never pretended before? We have pretended. So the thing about possibility conversation is making use of the way that we have been operating before. We have done a lot of pretend work, pretend thinking before. So this is what we are doing in terms of the possibility conversation. Given the nature of our constructed matrix of frames, bila saya sebut matrix of frames, kita pergi kat mana-mana, we go everywhere, we have this matrix that are formed of our meanings, of our understandings, our beliefs, our values, our identities. So those become the matrix within which we operate. Yeah? Given the nature of our constructed matrix of frame that create our inner game of reality, is it any surprise that we can use imagination to create new ideas, new products, new services, new possibilities that add value to others? Now, actually, this has always been the way that the human race has progressed. Somehow, in some way, creative men and women, you and me, everyone in this, we get an idea in our head, you get an idea in your head, you begin playing around with that. So that's how creativity starts. Eventually, they begin to experiment with the idea, and from the experimenting, they try things out, explore and test, and eventually it becomes what is done as a science. So know that science starts off with imagination, an idea. Ya, sains itu bermula dengan satu idea, satu imaginasi yang kita dah dapat struktur dia, dan kemudiannya ia menjadi satu sains. Those who succeed at creating new models, products, systems, services, and so on are designated as creators and inventors. If it works this way with the onward progress of human knowledge and technology, then certainly it works just as well for progress in coaching people for higher levels of performance, and expertise in how they live, relate to others, and manage themselves. It works for improving both our inner and outer game. We have this inner game of ideas. We play around with those ideas, we explore further, and then we play around with the outer game of saying and doing so that we refine our behaviors. This also highlights the difference between coaching and therapy.
Can you pause?
Yes.
Okay. Just to reiterate the point that you mentioned just now in BM a little bit. That is, can you go back to the slide, sayang? Sorry to disturb you. Playing with ideas. Maksudnya bermain dengan idea-idea yang ada dalam pemikiran yang sebenarnya kita mempunyai 4 personal powers dan mana kita adalah, is that what you were saying just now?
Yeah.
Kita punya feeling, kita punya pemikiran itu ada di dalam diri kita. Dan kita memikirkan ideas-ideas yang boleh menjadi sesuatu yang boleh dilakukan. So, dan apa nama what you said just now, to bring it out in our behaviour, untuk membawanya keluar daripada dalaman kita, keluar dengan action dan perbuatan kita. Betul?
Yeah.
Okay.
So possibility dia start dengan idea. Idea yang dikatakan mustahil. Because everything was impossible before it became possible. So possibility starts off with those wild, crazy ideas that comes to mind. And when we test them out, only then they become possible to others. So
banyak perkara yang sebelum ni menjadi kenyataan adalah orang kata kerja gila. Kan? Tetapi bila dibawa keluar dan idea itu dijadikan action, ianya menjadi perkara biasa. Okay.
So an example of an idea yang dulu orang kata kerja gila ialah space tourism. Space tourism. Nak jadi turis pergi ke angkasa lepas. Now it has become a reality through the work of Elon Musk, Richard Branson, and also what's the other guy? Amazon, Jeff Bezos, right? So these 3 people have managed to make space tourism a reality. However, 20 years ago, when it was first mooted, people say it's crazy idea. That okay. Now, moving on to the next point is that it highlights the difference between coaching and therapy, because coaching focuses on people progressing to the next level. Ya, kita fokus kepada manusia untuk dia meningkat kepada tahap yang lebih tinggi. It focuses on developing and actualizing our best. In a word, it is about generative and transformational change. Yeah, it is about moving forward, becoming better. That's what coaching is all about. By way of contrast, the tradition of psychology has focused on remedial change, on fixing things. People who go through psychology, there is something not right about how they are operating. So psychology wants to repair that. Repair the problem. Freud began looking at problems, hysteria, and mental disorders. And because of that, he assumed that people are broken. That is the domain of psychiatry. So 2 different ways of thinking. Traditional psychology continued that focus until the 1950s, when the cognitive sciences began to develop. So psychiatry, when we talk about therapy, psychiatry, they look at people who are broken in terms of their behaviors, and because of that, their ways of thinking are broken. Whereas coaching, we are looking at people who are healthy and their psychologics are different. So along came the human potential movement with the people involved are people like Maslow, Rogers, Assagioli, May, And then numerous therapists began to study the healthy human beings rather than sick ones. Then we have a new model about human beings. Prior to that, psychologists study, psychiatrists study the model of the broken human being, and therefore the psychology of these people are the broken psychology. Whereas coming into the human potential movement, we take the kita punya model, we take the model of people who are healthy. And when we study these people, there is a totally different psychology involved there.
Healthy instead of, in a sense, a healthy mind.
Yes, healthy ways of thinking. Psychologics are ways of thinking. So normal people have healthy ways of thinking. So the human potential movement studied normal people, not sick people. So it's just like if you want to build a car. Yeah? If you want to build a car, if you don't know how to build a car and you want to look for a model, you look for a car that is operating well. When you look for a car that's operating well, you model on that. Then you know how a car that works well works. But if you go to the scrapyard, kat tempat kereta rosak apa semua, you study that, you will not build a car that will be useful. Okay, so this is where the difference between psychiatry and psychology. The psychology behind it is different. Coaching, sorry, psychiatry and coaching. The psychologics behind them are different. Okay, go ahead.
So just untuk reiterate point dia, di sini perbezaannya adalah bila kita kata psychiatric tu kat situ bermaksud apa namanya, kita bercakap mengenai mengambil daripada apa yang diasaskan oleh Freud, yang mana adalah kajian mengenai orang yang sakit mental, betul. Tetapi apa yang akan dipersembahkan nanti adalah from the human potential movement. Dan human potential movement ni kajiannya adalah mengenai orang yang mental dia sihat dan bagaimana ianya boleh progress kepada keadaan yang lebih baik. Okay, thank you.
So coaching follows the lead of cognitive sciences. This is the psychology driving coaching. Yeah, cognitive sciences, neurosciences, systems, cybernetics, human potential movement, solution-focused therapy, Ericksonian hypnosis. These are, I would say, the framework that is informing us regarding coaching. And when we use these psychologists to drive coaching, that is why the first thing that we talk about in coaching is that it starts with the assumption that people are not broken. Meaning to say people are healthy. They are not stupid. They are not insane. People are good. They are sane and well. People are not broken. People only need to be given a chance in the right context and atmosphere, and they will move towards growth, development, choice, and the best states. And the reason why people behave in ways, I'm talking about normal people, the reason why people behave in ways that may not be amenable to others, yang tak diselesai oleh orang lain, ialah oleh kerana dia telah belajar strategi yang salah, bukan dia tu rosak. Ya, people may have learned wrong strategies and they may behave in ways that are not useful to others. It doesn't mean that they are broken. If I can give this example of my Mayan is how old? Mayan is about 4 years old. Yeah, 4, 5 years old, right?
4
years
sayang.
Old. Okay. Now, I was having this conversation with my daughter about 2 weeks ago, because Mayan, his name is Ismail. We call him Mayan. He has 2 elder brothers and 1 elder sister. Right? Now, the 2 elder brothers are very robust. And when he was born and he was still tiny, because the elder brothers are robust, they are already functioning as boys. What tends to happen is that Mayan tends to be isolated because his elder brothers are playing so well. He is very small, very new. He feels isolated at times, and sometimes he could not get what he wanted. And being very small, he realized he couldn't assert himself. And by the by, he realized one thing: if he plays use emotion, and he starts crying. Bahasa Melayu kita kata merajuk lah. He learns that strategy, that whenever he goes into that strategy, the what I call it, papi or kaka or maybe mama will tell the elder brothers to give way to him. So he learned the strategy that in order to get his way, he needs to sulk and cry. Dia nak kena merajuk, baru dia dapat apa yang dia nak. And I noticed that every time he could not get his way, he would sulk and cry. Almost immediate, he will sulk and cry. I noticed that was the strategy that he was using. So I said to my daughter, I said, do you notice Mayan's strategy? That's his default strategy, because that strategy has worked for him. Now, we need to teach him other strategies because he's already 4 years old. He can learn new strategies. So I just said that to my daughter, and my daughter Shaima began thinking what to do with it. Now, out of the 5 children my daughter has, Mayan is the only one with dimples. Yeah. Any one of you ada dimple? I see that Siti Fatimah, you have dimple. Okay. And Mayan, whenever, if he were to smile, you see the dimple, kita cair, he looks sweeter than honey. Yeah? So mama starts to reframe him. Mayan, you don't need to sulk when you don't get what you want, because you have a superpower. And Mayan asked, what is the superpower, mama? You have the power of dimple. So when you smile and ask nicely, people see your dimple, they will give it to you. And that was why when Mayan came over to our house just a couple of days ago, all that we need to do is that to remind him, Mayan, use your superpower. And then he would just go, I cannot emulate that because I don't have any dimple. Okay, so this is where people are not broken is important in the context of coaching. It's just that people who are well, who are healthy, even though they are not broken, they may have learned limited strategies or unuseful strategies that cause them not to get the results that they want. So when we talk about coaching, it's about bringing people to look into what other resources they have. This is what coaching is about.
Okay, maybe this is the right time for me to read, nak baca soalan daripada Fauzi Ahmad Nuri, to read the question from Fauzi Ahmad Nuri.
Yes.
Tuan, why when we grow older, we are afraid to come up with crazy ideas, unlike when we were small kids? So just to terjemahkan, Tuan, mengapa masa kita kecil dulu kita memang senang je nak come out dengan crazy ideas, tapi dah tua, dah besar, dah grow older ni tak berani dah. So it's that, I don't know, maybe you want to answer it later, to have this question in mind as you are explaining. Thank you.
Yes, we can handle that question because now we are still discussing on the point of pretending our way to reality. Yeah, probably one of the reasons is that as we were growing up, we have been prohibited from pretending. Yeah, people say, grow up, stop pretending. So those are the things that prevent us from trying out wild ideas. And sometimes people say to you, you can think, you have the ability to think like that. If that is a good idea, other people might have thought about it before. So all of those things coming cause us to discount. Discount meaning to say, we don't appreciate our own ideas. Some people think that good ideas can only come from very clever people. I'm not a very clever person, therefore good ideas doesn't come to me. So if I have any idea, that idea is not a good idea, so therefore I will not try it out. So those are some of the reasons why people do not go into possibility thinking. So this is what we are bringing up, possibility thinking, to take into our awareness, our consciousness, that there are things that are possible for us to do. Some people, they think, you see, one of the, I will use the word enemies. Yeah? One of the enemies, salah satu daripada musuh, one of the enemies of possibility thinking is our own current knowledge. We interpret things according to our own current knowledge. And if our current knowledge cannot explain it, we say that's impossible. So that's why, in order to grow, we need to have this mindset that my knowledge is limited. My knowledge is not enough. That's why I need to continue on learning new things. Our own personal knowledge and experiences could be our own worst enemy for possibility thinking. We discount new thoughts just because it goes against our existing knowledge or experiences. So that could be it as well. So possibility thinking over here is to be thinking about what's possible for human beings in terms of advancing the way that we think, feel, speak, behave, relate, and create. So if we only look at the past of what has happened, how can we go into the future if we don't open up the possibilities of what's in the future? Using the past gives us a grounding, but the past cannot help us to navigate into the future. Nah, oops. Kejut tadi. Yeah. So possibility thinking is for us to accept and appreciate that we have the resources necessary to think, and also possibility thinking also involve us modeling others. Look around us at the people who are successful in the specific area that they are doing, and then model their behaviors. Because the reason why we are not able to do that is because we have not thought about doing that in that person's way of doing. So the question that I just want to invite you to be thinking of right now, in the area of work that you're doing, whether in you're working in organizations, you're working in companies, or you are running your own businesses, what possibilities would you like to feed your mind that will give yourself a chance for peak performances?
Bahasa Melayu saya.
Ya.
Ulang bahasa Melayu.
Jadi kok bahasa Melayu tu tak kena guna Google Translate.
Sekali lagi cakap bahasa Inggeris, cakap G Miss tadi. Macam mana? Apa dia?
What possibilities would you like to feed your mind that will give yourself a chance for peak performances?
Apakah perkara yang kita boleh andaikan untuk kita capai, untuk membolehkan kita capai sesuatu yang lebih besar daripada yang kita capai sekarang? I am a certified penterjemah. Well, I did that for many years with Datuk Lawrence Walter Ng.
Okay.
I think boleh ke faham juga kan? InsyaAllah. Okay, at this point, I don't know whether you want to look at some of the questions.
Yes, I'm looking at the questions.
Okay, good.
What I will do is that the question yang Haji Shamsuddin asked, in workplace, we are facing difficulties to communicate with older person, to ask them to do their daily duty, how to handle this kind of person. Now that goes into the skill of communicating and relating. Yeah. Once you have the skill of communicating and relating, it will open up more possibilities of how you can behave. At the same time, what we are discussing this evening may give you some additional insight. Yeah. And the other point yang Tengku Osman put in, ada masa bila kita gagal, kita hilang idea, bila buat semuanya tak menjadi. Kita jadi buntu. Saya pernah alami situasi itu. So apa yang terbaik untuk kita lakukan? To answer that question, Tengku Osman asked the question, there are times when we fail, we lose all ideas about how to proceed, because whatever that we do, we continue failing. So what do we do in those situations? That question is what we will be addressing in the next 2 points. Yeah, so we'll be addressing those questions.
Maybe you'd like to also share that for those who came later, that yang sebenarnya this program you are giving is a monthly thing. Setiap bulan you ada this program, and it is free for them to come in.
Yeah. So as I mentioned to the people who came in earlier, so this session I'm having it every month. In fact, not just every month, every week. On different themes. The themes that I have are neuro-semantics, then relationship. This is coaching, and next week it will be on parenting. So I'm doing this every week, inshallah. Yeah. So I'm looking at another one. Ida Rusida put there. Maaf Tuan, bagaimana nak tarik minat anak untuk suka belajar agar dia tak rasa stres bila disuruh buat homework? Bagaimana untuk coaching anak bahawa belajar and homework itu tanggungjawab yang menyeronokkan? To answer that question, see me next Thursday, insyaAllah, on the parenting, because I will be covering a topic on discipline.
Yeah.
You will address that issue specifically, insyaAllah. Ida, Okay. Alhamdulillah. Any other questions? Anyone else has got any questions? Danielle, completed your 10,000 steps already? Any questions from you?
Not yet. Yeah. Still working hard. I don't have any questions for now.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's move to the next next point. Yeah. So I'm just going to share my screen again. Next point is the magic of possibility thinking. The magic of possibility thinking.
Magicnya memikirkan apa?
Nah,
possibility lah.
Use the word possibility thinking.
Possibility ni maksudnya
berfikir secara
buat apa yang akan boleh terjadi.
Kemungkinan, kebarangkalian, whatsoever. Okay. As we enter the 21st century, we have plenty of examples and evidences of the power of using possibility as a frame for generating new potentials. We've just witnessed the completion of Tokyo Olympics recently. And the thing about such events, the records are broken. Every year, new records are broken. We see that happening. Now, an example that many of you may be familiar with. This is Roger Bannister, Sir Roger Bannister. In 1954, he broke the 4-minute mile, a record that has stood for decades. So the record for the mile has stood at 4 minutes. Doctors at that time even thought that it's impossible for a human being to run the mile under 4 minutes. So it became a barrier. It's just that Sir Roger Bannister, he had this possibility thinking that he can break that. So it's not just about thinking, okay? He practiced and practiced and practiced it. And he managed to break that record. So he dipped below 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 59 point something second. Now, the moment he broke that record, because that record became a limit, everybody put that as their limit. The moment Sir Roger Bannister broke that, everyone who are at the same level as he was began to break that record. With that event, dozens of top-class mile runners were breaking that barrier in the same year. And within the next 10 years, nearly 200 runners crashed that barrier. Today, a 4-minute mile runner doesn't even qualify for a world-class performance or the Olympics, because that has been broken over and over and over again. So that barrier, that 4 minute, was not a physiological barrier. Bukan barrier, bukan halangan badan. It is a barrier that is inside here. It is a psychological barrier. The question is, how many of the barriers that you have are psychological and not physiological? Because possibility thinking frees us from the old constraints and invites us to use creative imaginations to look for solutions. And because of that, we are more likely to find such solutions. Possibility thinking is thinking that something can be done. The moment we think that something can be done, we can. However, to presume that something cannot be done, just like the 4-minute mile, it forecloses the subject before we even begin. So people will just surrender before they even attempt breaking that 4-minute mile. And until today, we see that manned flight, home computers, and 10,000 other inventions were foreclosed by the majority of scientists before anyone dared to imagine and to entertain the wild idea, what if we could? Possibility thinking is one of those mechanisms that allow us to explore our matrix and beyond. When we talk, yeah, okay, Ji?
That wasn't me, somebody else. Okay, wait, I mute that person. Okay. So when you take, mengambil daripada apa yang dicakap tadi, taking from what you said, possibility thinking, I hear you say this word, apa kata sekiranya ia boleh? What if it could? Apa kata sekiranya ia boleh? So that is a question. That is actually the important question that we ask. For example, kalau kita tengok nanti minggu depan, next week, Thursday, Ida, Tuan Mazuki will mention, Coach Mazuki will actually talk about this question. Then Ida will ask this, what if it could be done that I can discipline my child? Saya boleh penamanya disiplin anak untuk suka belajar, seronok, macam tak boleh berhenti pula dia nak belajar. How if it could? So possibility thinking ni ada soalan itu, betul? Betul, Coach. Okay.
So the next point, I'm going to share with you some specific possibility questions that we can use for ourselves. Yeah.
Okay.
So with possibility thinking, what we are saying is that we are looking at, let's say we are looking at this object and we are saying, what if it is not that? What if it is something else? That's possibilities thinking. Yeah, like little children, we notice them playing with something. I mean, for us, you look at this, you say, oh, that's a pencil. Yeah. But for a child, oh, this is an aeroplane, or this is an arrow,
Or a submarine.
or a submarine. Yeah, so that's possibility thinking. You are stepping aside our own mind. In our mind, we are stepping aside from the matrix. We have created a structure of thoughts and beliefs about this. So what do I believe about this? So that becomes the box, the frame about that. So when we try the as if frame, if this can be something else, what would happen? So that is at the crux of possibility questions. So in the coaching of possibility conversations, we are using these frames. So these frames, frame kat sini dimaksudkan corak pemikiran, cara kita berfikir tentang sesuatu. So we use these frames as to guide us in the possibility conversation. If you could actualize your dream of creating that new business, what would be the first thing you would do?
Bahasa Melayu yang
Sekiranya Anda boleh
membina bisnes baru, apakah perkara yang pertama? Actualize, merealisasikan bisnes
sekiranya Anda
baru.
boleh merealisasikan impian Anda untuk mencipta bisnes baru ini. Apakah perkara pertama yang akan Anda lakukan? Having that frame will free you from the thinking of, oh no, I can never build a new business. I am just a man. I am just a woman. I am just too old. I am just too young. I am just too tall. I am just too short. So by asking that question, it will free you from all of those. So this is one of the frames that we use. Another frame that we use. If you woke up in the morning and a miracle happened overnight, so that you no longer have those old feelings or constraints, what would be different? How would you even know a miracle happened while you were sleeping? So this is going into the fantasy imagination. Yeah. So you have this problem right now, and because of this problem ni, macam the question that was asked, jadi buntu sebab banyak sangat gagal dah buntu, tak tahu apa nak buat. So how to trigger that possibility thinking is, kiranya aku tidur malam ni, magic berlaku. Okay. Semua masalah tu hilang. Besok bangun, macam mana saya tahu bahawasanya keajaiban itu telah berlaku? Pergi cari. And just by putting your mind in that frame causes your whole inner and outer game go searching for new solutions. Okay, so this is about freeing ourselves from the old shackle. Make sense? So this is, and I would like to share another frame for possibility conversation. What would be the most important resource for solving this problem if you could solve it? So in the context of your brain is about to burst because you have this problem, you don't know how to solve this problem, and then asking the question, apakah sumber yang paling penting untuk menyelesaikan masalah ini yang akan membantu saya untuk menyelesaikannya. That puts your way of thinking in a different direction. So these are some of the frames. So what would happen is that when we use these frames for ourselves, they invite us to entertain and map out new possibilities. Yeah, like the question that was asked earlier, why is it as people grow old, they don't even entertain new possibilities? So you need to put on these frames, because the moment you put on these frames, your mind will stop thinking in the way that you have been, because your way of thinking has caused you to come to a dead end. Dah buntu. So ask this question allows you to be thinking in a different way. Jadi macam apa ni? You know that game that children play apa? Macam Super Mario ke apa semua dia and they come to a brick wall kan. But our children know that there is a certain button that they put instead of langgar the brick wall, they just go up and go across or going like that. So by asking this sort of question allows our mind to just spiral up, to look into those crazy ideas.
Okay, Cop sayang.
Yeah.
Okay, I just would like to read a comment made by Hani. Possibility thinking ni yang akan drive otak kita untuk cari jalan ke arah objektif atau ke arah solution yang kita cari. Lepas tu Yasmin Sari kata, coach, maksudnya kita always focus on solution, yeah?
Yes. Yes.
Because di sini also apa yang this is my conclusion as well. Apa yang diajar ni bukan saja kita boleh tanya pada diri kita, kita juga boleh tanya pada orang yang kita nak coach. Betul?
Yes.
Kan?
Yeah, I want to take that a little further. Yeah, a little further. That all of what we are learning here this evening in neurosemantics, we use them for ourselves and use them to help others. Yeah, it works for ourselves and also for others. The most important thing is this: when we try it for ourselves and it works, it is easier to get others to try it for themselves. Yeah. So that example about apa ni yang the point yang Yasmin mentioned, ya, maksudnya kita always focus on solutions. That point, what happened is that when people are not using possibility thinking, their thinking is focused on the problem that is stopping them from growing. So in order for us, you see, our mind, sometimes it can be very single track. So it looks at the problem, it keeps on thinking how to break that problem. It keeps on thinking on how to break that problem. So the more you think about the problem, the more problem that you have. So sometimes it is worthwhile for you to be thinking in other ways. People keep using the word out of the box thinking. Kenapa dia guna perkataan out of the box? Why do they use the word out of the box? What is that box? That box is we have created a box of our meanings, values, understandings, beliefs about this thing. So in order to solve this thing, we cannot operate from this existing box of meanings, values, and beliefs. That's why Albert Einstein said that you cannot solve today's problem with today's thinking. You can only solve it with another way of thinking. So this is what we are referring to as possibility conversation. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions that we can have? go ahead if you want to unmute yourself and ask questions. Okay.
Coach,
Yes.
okay, nak tanya, maksudnya bila kita memang betul kadang-kadang datang keadaan kita rasa buntu kan. So bila datang sampai waktu buntu tu, kita kena berfikir macam cara orang gila. Macam gila-gila lah kan. Maksudnya waktu tu kita tak boleh berfikir dengan box, dengan cara yang kita sebab kita memang nak fokus, kita nak cari solution. Tapi bila kita fikir solution, kita tak jumpa solution. Akhirnya macam bila coach kata tadi, okey tak apa, besok mesti ada keajaiban. Bila fikir macam tu, dah macam keluarkan daripada semua pemikiran biasa, besok kita akan rasa, oh ada solution.
Yeah.
Coach, macam tu, macam kita kena berada di dunia yang baru lah ya.
Oh yes. And I'm glad that you say that kita kena berada dalam dunia yang baru, because that's how children solve problems. Dia sentiasa dalam dunia baru dia. Dia tak fikir mengikut dunia lama kita. I give the example of my eldest granddaughter. Asyik cerita grasshopper.
Itu dan jadi kebiasaan.
I mentioned this example many times. Our eldest granddaughter Azara, grandfather calls her grasshopper. She was about 6 years old at that time, so we were just funning around, just playing around, and then she was doing the split. Any one of you know how to do the split? Go ahead and do the split. I can do about 3/4 of a split. I cannot do more than that. So grandfather buatlah split, split like that. And I pretended that I was stuck. Yeah, I pretended I was stuck. I said to her, help, I'm stuck. And she looked at me and she just smiled first. Yeah, she just smiled first. In my mind, the problem, how to solve the problem, is for someone to come from the back, from my back, put the arms around my chest and then lift me up. So that's my way of thinking of solving the problem. However, what she did was, she looked at me, smiled, she went down on all fours, merangkak, she crawled underneath me and then hunched her back to push up my buttocks up. And that relieved the stress. And I was stunned. I was stunned. Why? Because I did not think of that solution. Because my thinking was, the solution was to go to the back, lift the person up. However, from her perspective, 6 years old, do you think a 6-year-old can lift a 60-year-old? Definitely not. But she was thinking in a different way and she found her unique solution. So that's why if we want to solve a problem, do not persist with thinking about the problem. To begin thinking about, what if I have already solved this? And now, how would my life be if I have to solve this? And then you work backwards. So that will trigger the juices inside to come up with new solutions. Okay, good. Any other questions? Yeah, let's move to the I think it will be the last point for this evening. That is the possibility conversation we are talking about this evening, and moving into the possibility questions. What are the possibility questions? In the context of coaching, in the coaching context, possibility conversations occur around numerous challenges and conflicts that we often map out as impossible and then feel helpless about them. So what are the examples? So these are some examples where possibility questions will be useful. For example, in time management, how many of you have ever said that I don't have enough time in a day to do everything? I see Yasmin, dua-dua tangan angkat. Okay. Feeling overwhelmed. Feeling overwhelmed. I will never get all of the things of this project completed. We have tried everything in our relationship, and not only does nothing work, but every attempt only increases the problem. In the context of general unhappiness, I've reached all the external signs of success, yet I'm still not happy. Those less successful than I am seems much happier. What's going on? Yeah. I mean, when it talk about general unhappiness, a friend of mine, Haji Nur Halim, he gave this example whereby when you were young and courting, newly married, both of you going to work, the husband riding the motorcycle, the wife at the back holding, thinking about, oh, if I have a BMW, I'll be happier. And then as you go up the corporate ladder, now you have the BMW driving, and then the wife is there on Facebook while you are driving, not talking to one another. You stop at the traffic light, and then you look at the couple on the motorbike. The husband is on the motorbike. The wife is hugging the husband. Oh, they are so happy, happier than me. So sometimes it's our way of thinking that is causing us to be stuck there. Limited thinking. Things like, I want to write a book, but I don't think I could do it and maintain my current style of life. So these are some of areas where you can begin a possibility conversation. So if it is you, then I want to invite you to use the questions that I'm going to share with you 7 types of questions in a short while. Right? So if it is somebody close to you, your family or friends, having this dead end thinking, so by all means, use the possibility questions. Let's take a look at some of these possibility questions. Oh dear, I forgot to, yeah, I need to do that one by one. So let me just do some changes over here. Otherwise,
it's okay, Coach.
huh?
It's okay, Coach. Go by one. Then you.
I'll go one by one, bullet by bullet. Otherwise, it might confuse some people, as we say. Oh dear, it doesn't work.
It's okay. Just
Okay,
read.
never mind. Yeah, let's take this possibility questions over here. Whoops. No, where am I? Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Nah, bozo.
Yeah, let's take this question. Sorry about that. So the first question there, is this desired outcome possible for you? For example, you are in business, and with the COVID-19, for the last, let's say, almost 2 years already, for the last 2 years already, your income is 0. Anyone has that situation? I'm laughing at myself, okay? Your income is 0. And yet you put out there, I want to have an income of, let's say, 1 million ringgit. And then all the gremlins come out and say, 1 million, you can get that. Is it possible for you to do that? Not possible. It's impossible. You're not. So all of this comes in. So you have that outcome that you want, and asking yourself this question: is this desired outcome possible for you? Is it possible for anyone? So instead of saying that it's not possible, that is the other end of the extreme. The impossibility thinking is, no, it's not possible. You won't be able to achieve that. That is the impossibility thinking. The possibility question is this desired outcome possible for me? Is it possible for anyone? And sometimes the second question is going to help with the first question, because you're thinking that, oh no, maybe I can't do that. But is it possible for anyone? You look around, oh yes, many people who are able to achieve that. And maybe it's also possible for me. So this is the possibility question. The next question.
Soalan saya, translate into Malay. Is this desired outcome possible for you? Adakah apa nama? Outcome.
Outcome is matlamat ataupun
adakah perkara inilah, perkara yang kita kehendak ini boleh kita capai?
Yes.
Kan, lebih kurang.
Yeah.
So is this desired outcome possible for you? Adakah perkara yang kita kehendaki ini boleh kita capai? And
so the contrast that I want to make is the impossibility thinking. Yeah. On this end is impossibility thinking. This end is the possibility thinking. People get stuck because they are stuck in the impossibility thinking. The thinking that it's impossible for me. So the moment you are starting your thinking with it's impossible for me, then you are not going to get anywhere. You are at that roadblock. So to change your thinking, is this desired outcome possible for me? So dia akan mencetuskan pemikiran yang kreatif kat situ. Adakah apa yang saya nak ni mungkin untuk saya? Adakah ia mungkin untuk orang lain juga? So bila kita berfikir tentang mungkin, kita akan lihat idea-idea baru yang akan menunjukkan kepada kemungkinan itu. So we'll be able to see new ideas that will show us towards that possibility. Yeah? And asking yourself, what would it be like if it were possible? It will free us from the state, keadaan mental dan emosi, that when I'm thinking that something is impossible, my whole body goes down, my physiology, I feel it is hopeless, it is helpless. So, however, the moment I ask the question, what would it be like if it were possible? If it were possible. So notice that our mental and emotional state will be different. And because of that, it helps us to be more creative in our thinking. Yeah? The next one is, what is the probability that
I would write the terjemahan dekat comment so that you can move fast.
Okay, thank you. The next one is, what is the probability that you'll be able to achieve this outcome within the next year, next month, year, or decade? So now is probability thinking, kebarangkalian. So what is that probability? So that will, because your mind is thinking in this direction, asking that question, ask the mind to move in another direction. Next question is, what limitations or constraints play into this objective? Yeah. So in this way, I'm now identifying the constraints, and by doing that, I'm able to overcome them instead of just being stuck with the problem. The next question is what we consider as a modeling question. Do you know anyone for him this is possible? What makes it possible for that person? So let's say you want to build a business and you want to have massive growth in your business. Do you know anyone for whom this is possible? So you look around you. Oh, that person has built that business to that level. So what did he do that made it possible? This is a modeling question. Using your possibility thinking to model new solutions. Yeah. And another question, would you like for this outcome to be possible for you? Because the antithesis of it, at the back end of it, is that sometimes you prohibit yourself from succeeding in whatever it is that you want. So asking yourself the question, would you like for this outcome to be possible for you? Yes, I actually want it. So that will reveal what is preventing you from really wanting it. Sometimes it is not that you don't deserve the success, but you have prohibited yourself from succeeding that. So this is another question that will bring out possibilities for yourself. And this is the classic, in neurosemantics, we call this the Disney question, the miracle question. If you woke up in the morning after a middle of the night miracle, how would you know you were living in the day after the miracle? So now it is not about thinking about the miracle. You are going beyond the miracle. So if the miracle happened, the problem is solved, right? The problem is solved. So if the problem has been solved, how would you know? Now you wake up on a day whereby that old problem is gone. So how would that day be? What would be different? How would you know? What would others notice? So now you are putting yourself right in front of the solution. So that gets the brain cells to be thinking in wondrous ways. So these are, I've picked out 7 different types of questions that you can use to instigate, to trigger that possibility thinking for yourself.
Okay, baru terperasan orang dekat Facebook tak nampak apa yang ditulis dekat Zoom. So can I read it or can you read it? Maybe when you read it, you will be able to correct my translation.
Okay, so I need to stop share in order to do that. What? Yang pertama tu, is this desired outcome possible for you? Adakah perkara yang kita kendaki ini boleh kita capai? Yeah. The second one is, what would it be like if it were possible? Bagaimana rupanya jika ianya boleh saya capai? The third one is, what is the probability that you'll be able to achieve this outcome within the next month, year or decade? Apakah kebarangkalian saya boleh capai perkara ini dalam masa sebulan, setahun atau 10 tahun? The fourth one is, what limitations or constraints play into this objective? Apakah halangan yang menghalang pencapaian ini? Next one,
saya mencapai.
Next one is, do you know anyone for whom this is possible? Adakah kamu mengenali seseorang yang berjaya melakukan perkara ini? Apa yang membolehkan mereka berjaya? Asking that question. Next is, would you like for this outcome to be possible for you? Adakah Anda mahu perkara ini dicapai? And the question, the miracle question is, if you woke up in the morning after the middle of the night miracle, how would you know you were living in the day after the miracle? Jika Anda bangun esoknya setelah keajaiban itu terjadi pada malamnya. Ya. Jadi pagi selepas keajaiban berlaku. Bagaimana anda tahu keajaiban itu telah berlaku? Apa evidence yang anda lihat dalam kehidupan anda bahawasanya keajaiban itu telah pun berlaku? Okay, so those are what I would like to bring to your attention in this session on possibility conversation. The possibility conversation is about looking at ways to overcome our problems in creative ways. And because coaching is all about possibilities, within every coaching conversation, there is going to be an explorative dialogue about possibilities. Because when we are coaching someone, that person wants to move from A to B. In order to move from A to B, what are the possibilities that that person can needs to take in order to get to B? So that is why possibility conversation is critical in coaching. We can pretend our way to reality by using language to create new, vivid mental memories that provide us a map to new possible realities in our work, relationship, and health. The thing about language is that it is a symbol. When we use language in one way, then we are putting ourselves in a certain space. So possibility conversation basically involves us using language in another way. So when we use the language in another way, it helps put us in a different space. So that's why those questions are so impactful to us. Because it allows us, it frees us from the cell, from the jail of our own languaging. Haji, go ahead.
Can you, because what you said just now, apa yang Abang cakap tadi tu, what is the example that that you can, because you said about the language just now, saying, can you give an example to make it clearer? Bagi contoh supaya lebih jelas. Possibility thinking.
Okay.
Using
Let me
language.
give this example from Tengku Osman. Ada masa bila kita gagal, kita hilang idea bila buat semuanya tak menjadi. Jadi kita jadi buntu. Yeah. So that language that I have failed so many times and I am at a dead end. Using that language, you are putting yourself at a dead end, pada jalan buntu. Jadi kalau kat jalan buntu, nak ke mana lagi? So that language itself is memenjarakan kita kat situ. Ya, bila kita menggunakan bahasa buntu, when we use the language of a dead end, then you stay in that dead end. So instead, when we use the language of, for example, what would it be like if it were possible? So now I'm not thinking of the dead end. I'm thinking of the possibilities. And because of that, the brain will bring in the ideas about achieving those possibilities.
Contoh dia, soalan, kenapa susah sangat saya nak bina bisnes ni? That's a soalan. Kan? That get us to jadi buntu. Tetapi soalan yang membantu adalah bagaimana sekiranya bisnes ni boleh dibina dengan mudah?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Does that make sense? So the possibility conversation is also about mapping out our thinking using new language. Because everything about language is a symbol. Our language are just symbols. And different symbols mean different things to someone else. So when we use a word from a language, it symbolizes something. So we need to use a different symbol, new word, a new language that will put us at a different place to give us more flexibility and freedom to move. Okay.
Okay. There's a soalan there.
Yeah.
From Fauzia Maknuri. Maybe you'd like to read it. Can you read? If otherwise, I will read. Tuan, what type of physical language is more effective, verbal or body language?
I don't quite understand the question. Sorry.
What type of, maybe Fauzia, you can unmute and ask question. Ji, can you unmute and ask and explain that question? Okay, never mind. Ada another soalan. Coach, sometimes kita nak orang ikut cakap kita, but then bila kita selalu buat keputusan sendiri, kita mula rasa mereka tak respect kita. So how to cool down ourselves ASAP?
Yeah. So that question, basically, it is better to be answered in the context of the skill of communicating and relating.
When will you be doing that? You have done that before, right?
Yes, I've done that before, but yeah, we can bring it to the next level. Because the answer to that question relates to our skills in communicating, and remember earlier I gave the example about Mayan. He has only one strategy of overcoming the situation whereby the elder brothers will overpower him. He has only one strategy, and then he learned a new strategy using his dimple power. Okay, so that question is similar to that. So when you talk about you want people to take notice of what you say, to respect what you do. So that requires a lot of external, not just external strategy, it also requires a lot of additional internal knowledge in order to do that. It is not specifically, yes, it does relate to possibilities. However, it also brings in the knowledge and skills about communicating and relating. So it is a little bit more involved in order to answer that. And the question of how to cool down ourselves as soon as possible, that requires a skill which we call state management.
Assalamualaikum Tuan.
Waalaikumsalam. Yes, silakan.
Tadi tengah dengan family. Okay, actually my question is macam ni. For example, like if you want to send a communication to send a message, for example to our kids lah. Okay. Sometimes people say it's better to use body language. That means kita tunjuk kita punya mimik muka ke atau sense of touch rather than bercakap. That is I'm trying to say. Sometimes with words dia tak dapat tangkap kita punya message, but with body language it can be better. That is actually I'm trying to understand. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. It's just that what I want to say is that when we talk about communication, when you communicate to someone, you are using all of what we call verbal and non-verbal communication. The non-verbal communication is to support the verbal part of the communication. It's just that when your non-verbal is not congruent with your verbal, people tend to take the non-verbal message more. For example, if I were to say to you, saya sedih sangat mendengar cerita yang awak ceritakan tadi. Tak kongruent kan?
Fatimah ketawa.
Nampak tak menipunya.
Tak ngam.
So dia tak ngam. So the communication doesn't go across. So what you need to do is when you communicate, the verbal and the non-verbal needs to be congruent. So kalau sedih, kita dengan air muka sedih. Kita kata, I feel so sad when you say such things to me. Then it will go there. But you cannot not communicate without the verbal. Because communication requires that verbal. If I were to communicate to you like this, what did I just say? It could be anything. It could be anything. Yeah. So what we are saying when we communicate, use both verbal and non-verbal. And if I may add a little bit more to this question, the confusion arises came from a study. Bila nak sebut study ni baru terlupa the name of the person who did the study. But the study that he did, dia datang atau dia pergi datang? People misunderstand the scope of the study. People just take from that study and say that communication is 95% non-verbal and only 5% verbal. So people just take that part of the study. But in his study, he was referring to that 95% refers to when people understand the verbal. So be careful about that. There is a misunderstanding of that particular study. Right now, I can remember the name of the person, and he debunked the myth that non-verbal communication is more important than verbal communication. People were spreading that myth, and he himself debunked that myth. So what we are saying is that when you communicate, you want to get it to be congruent, the verbal with the non-verbal. Only then your communication will get across. And one of the reasons why people cannot fully understand your communication is, as I said earlier, for some people, they are not using their non-verbals fully to communicate the intent of their communication. For example, if I were to say to you that I'm really disappointed with what you did just now. So there's nothing in my non-verbals to say that I'm disappointed. So that's why people miss. Dia ingatkan tak apa je lah. Tak ada apa pun, tengok muka.
Sometimes when we talk also, maybe we are not facing the person. For example, like with the children, sometimes we might be doing other works and we talk to them. The word that normally replace that will be Babel. So the energy is there. What the non-verbal, the verbal is there, but the non-verbal is not communicated fully.
So
that's what I'm saying.
The full power and the full intention of the communication is not transmitted, because what is transmitted is only the verbal part. And since the non-verbal part is not there, the state of the communication, the state of communication is not being transmitted. So let's say I use the example that Mayan gave to us, is that if I were to say to you that I love everybody, as compared to how Mayan says it, this happened when Nemi over there, Ibu Rose, asked Mayan, why do you love grandfather so much? And his answer was, I love everybody. So that's how you feel that, because the tone, the pitch, the timbre of the voice comes in with the words. That's how you receive it. So as parents, if you don't use the all of those, the tone, the pitch, you don't use all of those, then the intensity of your communication doesn't get communicated. So this falls into the category of skills in communicating and relating. Yeah, so that's another skill that you need to have.
Let me see whether there's any question on the Facebook.
So we are coming to the end of the session. So any questions that you may have that you would like to ask? So go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Mazuki, I have a question.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I just wonder, I give a scenario if, let's say, sometimes as a team in my own company, when I try to dig out ideas from the team and they seem maybe not encouraged to give ideas. So sometimes I would say, if it were to up to you, then what could it be? That kind of possibility question. So I want to know, is it okay to ask this way, to add in if it's were to up to you? Because sometimes I feel that maybe they don't seem, because most of the time we make decisions, and then maybe they're worried about when they say something, and then we might, not take in their ideas and things like that. So by asking that, would it help, or is it, okay to ask that?
I will answer this at a couple of levels. At the first level of, I would say, the presentation level, the way that you present, the way that you say it, it is okay to do that. At the same time, at the deeper level, to be able to carry it through. You see, I've just been reading in the last couple of days about the Great Resignation. In the States, they have this issue about the Great Resignation. And one of the reasons why this Great Resignation is happening is that people feel that they are not being heard in the organization. Yeah. So when you put in a question such as that, you are giving them an opportunity to get them to say things. First is that they may feel uncomfortable because they are not used to it. And then when you qualify it with that way, they may be encouraged to do it. And hopefully it will help you to get at the results that you want. Meaning you get the feedback or the suggestions that they give. At the same time, what do you do with those suggestions? So that's coming in at the second level. What do you do with those suggestions? Now, the thing about it is that as the employer, it is not, you don't have to, the word is not to say don't have. As the employer, you are not responsible to act on every suggestion that people give, because they may not understand the strategic objectives of the organization. That's why a lot of the suggestions that people give, you will not take that into consideration. However, you need to let them know that you have heard those suggestions, you have deliberated on those suggestions, and that you may have taken other solutions. Let them know that. Yeah, because when you let them know that, they will feel assured that, okay, at least my boss hears my suggestion, And the reason why they don't take my suggestion into account is that this is the rationale that they have. So that's okay, because it's up to them anyway. So this is how, the reason why I want to say that is that it has to happen at both levels, because a lot of organizations, they open up the company for people to give feedback, but they do not communicate to the people what do they do with the feedback. So after sometimes people think, "Alah, say, don't say, same thing." And after some time they stop. So what you do is that when you open the door for them to give feedback, you need to communicate to them in a way to demonstrate to them that you have listened to the feedback. And that's why in coaching, we have the skill of mirroring. Mirroring, meaning to say when they say something, you say it back to them. Because when you say it back to them, they know that you have heard what they have said. That is mirroring. So if they give a suggestion, you say to them, so this is your suggestion, and you tell it back to them. Whether you take into account that suggestion or not, at least at that point in time, they know that you have heard their suggestion. And the next step is whether that suggestion is valid or not. So that's another level that you go into. Yeah, does that make sense, Danielle?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
When I conduct management training, I keep mentioning to people, especially so when I talk to people at the I would say the worker level, I would say to them, your job is to give information. So the communication is bottom up is information, top down is decision. Just because you give information doesn't mean that the management will make decision according to the information that you give. They are responsible for the decision that needs to be made. So that's why if you are the one who's giving the information, as long as you've given the information, let the bosses make the decisions. Is entirely up to them. Because some people take it personally. Wow, I give suggestion to the boss make the decision differently. So these are the nuances that we need to bring into organizations. This is what we call the structure of information flow in an organization.
I agree with you, Coach.
Thank you.
Coach?
Yes.
I agree with you because if we ask people to provide ideas or what, but they never see the result. So that's why they refuse to give idea after that.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you very much for giving that. So that's why if you as leaders and you are leaders in whatever role that you are playing as leaders, one is to let the people know that you have listened. And the way that you let people know that you have listened is to say it back word by word to what they have said. Yeah. For example, your child comes up to you, Kakak hit me on the head. So you say back to the child, oh, Kakak hit you on the head. So by saying that, the child knows that you have heard what they have said. So staff as well. You say it back to them, what they have said, that tells them that you have heard. Now, the next thing is that when you make a decision, you tell them the criteria for making decision. So any information that they give you doesn't mean that you have to make the decision according to that. So, and I keep telling people, both sides, I keep telling people that the management doesn't have to make the decision according to what you think It's their job to make the decision. It's your job to give them the information. Right. Thank you for that. Yeah. So any other comments? So there's another.
Just put our hand if you want to ask question or comment.
Okay.
So that if you unmute, then we will not. Because maybe you wait for coach to finish the sentence and you unmute. So if you put up your hand, then we will not mute you. Okay.
So any questions? Coming almost to 9:45 already.
Maybe if you don't mind, just repeat few salient points so that possibility thinking in a nutshell.
Yeah. Okay, so typically whenever I conduct this session, if there are 10 people or less, then I will take an opportunity to hear from each and everyone at the end of the session. However, this evening, Alhamdulillah, I'm so enthused that there are more than there are 59 people here, so we don't have the time for me to invite each and every one of you to come to voice your thoughts and ideas. So maybe I'll just summarize with 3 points for this evening. One is that because coaching is all about possibilities, within every coaching conversation, there is going to be an explorative dialogue about possibilities. That's the one. So that's why we are talking about the coaching conversation. And then the second one I mentioned earlier is that we can pretend our way to reality. Everything starts with that pretend. Yeah? By using language to create new mental movies that provides us with a map to new possible realities in our work, relationship, and health. And the third point is that coaching for possibility thinking enables us to step out of the mental box that we get ourselves into so that we can try on a different kind of thinking that sometimes locks us up in fears, dreads, and anxieties. And by going into the possibility thinking will open up the doorway into hope and feeling hopeful for the future in our life. So probably I will just summarize by doing that. So I would like to bring this session to an end. Before we end, is there anyone else who would like to say anything before we end? Just take a couple more minutes. Anyone else would like to say anything? So everyone good for this evening?
Possibility thinking, possibility coaching adalah untuk kita explore apakah perkara-perkara yang membolehkan kita menyelesaikan cabaran yang sedang kita hadapi. Halangan, cabaran ataupun mencapai matlamat yang kita nak capai. Dengan menggunakan soalan-soalan yang membantu kita membuka jalan kepada corak berfikir yang membolehkan kita mencapai apa yang kita nak capai. Sebab soalan-soalan ini bila ditanyakan salah kepada diri kita, ia akan beri jawapan yang tidak membantu kita, tak resourceful. Tetapi bila soalan yang ditanya adalah soalan yang membantu kita untuk explore, untuk menerima seperti miracle question, sangat-sangat penting. Sebab miracle question ini menyebabkan kita boleh bukan sahaja melihatnya terjadi tetapi juga merasakannya terjadi. Sebab bagaimana perasaan kita, apakah yang kita nampak, apakah perkara yang terjadi selepas berlakunya miracle pada malam. Dan sebenarnya ia menyebabkan kita short circuit pemikiran negatif yang telah banyak berada di dalam pemikiran, short circuit sebab perkataan itu miracle dah berlaku. Jadi macam mana bila miracle dah berlaku? Jadi kita akan jadi excited, insyaAllah. Kita jadi seronok, feel very empowered sebab dah berlaku pun miracle. Pretending that dia telah berlaku, namun pretending itu sangat penting kerana the unconscious mind do not know whether it is true or it is false. Betul ke? Yes.
Yes. And what I have mentioned in the previous sessions before, when we pretend, this is key, the quality of our states determine the quality of our life. States here refer to our mental and emotional state. So the quality of our state determines the quality of our life. When we pretend, we must be very clear that the problem is not solved. So if you pretend and you think that the problem is solved by your pretending, you are
illusion.
Sorry?
Illusion. Disillusion.
Not disillusion. You are what's the word? Yes, can somebody help me? You are delusional.
Delusional lah.
Yeah, delusional. The word is delusional.
Bahasa Melayu delusional ni macam berangan kosong, macam tu.
Delusional ni, delusional is.
Apa boleh letak bahasa Melayu delusional?
Delusional is.
Macam tak betul sikit lah kan?
So dia
hayal kot.
Hayal. Bolehlah guna hayal. Yes.
Halusinasi.
Yes, hallucination. You are hallucinating. So when we pretend, we know that by pretending, we are not out of the problem. If we pretend we think that we are out of the problem, then we are delusional. Itu halusinasi. However, when we engage possibility thinking and we pretend, what happens is our mental and emotional state changes. When our mental and emotional state changes, we are capable of a different way of thinking. So that's what makes the difference.
Very powerful. Very powerful, the difference.
Ibu Ros, boleh tak repeat sikit apa yang coach cakap tadi tu?
Ya, coach pandai cakap bahasa Melayu lah.
Bila
tapi point tu macam penting
Thank you, that's very good.
This is for the benefit of nak terjemah ke bahasa Melayu. Mula-mula saya minta maaf lah, saya punya bahasa Melayu dapat C5 aja.
Tak apa, cakap Kelantan tak apa.
Okay. Bila kita pretend, angan-angan kita pretend, kok bahasa Melayu apa dia? Andai. Kita membuat andaian, kita angan-angan tu. Kita berkhayal. No? Ya. Kita perlu sedar bahawasanya dengan angan-angan, andaian, khayalan kita itu, kita tidak menyelesaikan masalah itu. Masalah itu masih lagi ada. Kalau kita ingat dengan andaian tu masalah tu dah selesai, itu artinya
tak betul lah tu.
Nak kena daftar ke tanya rambutan lah. Dah tak betul lah tu. Okay?
Hospital bahagia.
perlu sedar itu. Akan tapi bila kita masuk dalam dunia khayalan tu, apa yang berubah ialah keadaan mental dan emosi kita berubah. Jadi keadaan mental dan emosi kita menjadi lebih positif. Dengan itu kita lebih mampu mengolah cara kita berfikir untuk menjadi lebih berdaya, lebih kreatif. Yang itu yang akan menyelesaikan masalah untuk kita.
To bring your state at the empowering state.
Yes.
Orang kata apa?
Teruskan.
Silakan.
Orang ada kata apa ni, hayal tu tak bayar, tak perlu bayar pun, percuma je bayar. So tak berhayal je lah, tak payahlah kita susahkan, hayal je. akhirnya kita akan mencapai sebab kita dah letakkan benda tu dalam kita punya minda kita, dan kita akan cuba mencapai apa hayalan kita tu sebenarnya. Benda ni banyak berlaku pada saya lah. Saya banyak berhayal sebenarnya sebelum ni. Tapi in reality dianya happen bila kita dah berhayal tu kan. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah. So lagi sekali, I just want to mention here is that it is okay for you to imagine. It is okay for you to hallucinate. Yeah. But you need to be very clear about what is imagination and what is reality. Yeah. The moment you confuse between imagination and reality, you are putting yourself in danger. The power of the possibility conversation is that you imagine, you hallucinate. At the same time, you know that the issue is still there. However, by imagining and hallucinating, you are putting your states into empowering states. Jadi pemikiran kita tidak lagi buntu, kita mampu untuk berfikir dengan cara yang lebih kreatif. Jadi sekiranya kita rasa, oh mudah tua, dah tak kreatif lagi, by menggunakan hayalan macam Haji Samsudin sebut tadi, membantu kita berfikir macam seorang kanak-kanak 5 tahun pula, boleh jadi lagi kreatif. So that is the value. And the important thing is that once you have that new mental and emotional state, coming up with creative ideas, take action on the creative ideas. If you have ideas, you don't take action, itu kita panggil mak jenin.
Itu kita panggil apa? No action talk only.
No action talk only.
Tapi dia bukan talk lah, imagine only. So the to a certain extent, it can also be said that we change our state. What can be done in changing our state? The possibility thinking help us. Possibility thinking ini membantu kita untuk to change our state, so that when our state, when we are in the right state of mind, we are playing in our mind. In a game that we are playing is the game of winning.
Yes. Right. Thank you very much for that. Alhamdulillah. So we are also coming up to almost 10 o'clock already. So almost half an hour beyond our scheduled time. So I would like to bring this meeting to a close this evening. Before that, I would like to thank everyone here. There are more than 50 of you, so I don't have the time to mention all of your names. It's just that I would like to say that thank you very much. I really appreciate your being here. I really treasure the time for all of you being here. Yes, Ibu Ros?
Yeah, kat Facebook pun ada yang.
Oh yes, and those of you who are joining us from Facebook, saya kat sini saya tak nampak yang kat Facebook tu. So thank you very much for joining us this evening. And in case you miss anything from this evening, what I typically do is that by about tomorrow evening or so, I will send you an email that gives you the link to the recording, so you can also view the recording after this. So with that, I wish all of you.
Can they share this? Sorry, sayang. Can they share this link with other people who was not here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Boleh share, yeah? Okay.
Okay. So with that, I would like to wish you all the best. May you be in good health. May you have all the successes in your life. And Kit, you have just shown yourself over there. So those of you who have known me and those of you who are just meeting me for the first time, thank you very much for doing so. With that, I wish you good night.
Do you want to take a picture of yours? These people? Want you like to savor this beautiful session?
Yes. So I'll take the
on
picture.
your knee.
Okay. So now on my first screen, I'm saying, so put your video on, okay, everybody, and give a big smile. So first picture. Okay, now get ready for the Second picture, give a big smile. And only 2 pictures we've got there. So with that, everyone, thank you very much. And may we meet again in another session. So,
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, Coach.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you.
Thank you.